Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is your girl Mitzi, and this is Mitzi. Let's think about it. Today, we are thinking about how love is easier than hate. Isn't that a thinker? I have Kate here who's going to help us really think about this so that we can figure out, can I love more than I can hate? That's a real thinker. So, Kate, thank you so much for coming on to my show. Let's just dive right in. When you hear that phrase, what does it make you think about?
Hey, Mitzi, thank you so much. It is my pleasure to be here. And wow, I hope we can all love much more than we can hate because life is so much more fun that way. I think I learned this the hard way. Any big, powerful lessons, often we really do have to learn them the hard way.
Yes, that is very true. I think it comes with hidden gifts. You know what I mean? They're like hidden little blessings. The way that you learn things the harder way because you gain a certain perspective, you gain context, you gain appreciation, you gain this value. I was just like, wow, it changes you in in such a directory where you can't live life the same. When somebody has gone through homelessness, through hunger, through such big milestones in your life, it changes your perspective on food, on living, on so many things. So yeah, to implement love in our lives, how do we do that, Kate?
I think I need to give you a little bit of backstory before I go to the action steps because I absolutely have the action steps for implementing more love. And, our listeners can make this relate to wherever in their life they might be feeling hate and they would love to feel more love. For myself, it relates specifically to why I stopped being an angry vegan. And again, people can probably relate to knowing the angry vegan or potentially even being one, my friends out there. However, Mitzi, I was the little girl who loved animals and ate animals, and I didn't think about what would need to happen for me to eat those animals until I had a particular conversation with a girl at school at 16, and she laid it out to me, and I became vegetarian overnight. I didn't do it healthily originally. Fast forward about 23 years, and I saw a documentary that laid out to me that even though I was vegetarian for the animals, those individuals were still dying for my food choices with the eggs and the dairy that I was still eating. And so I became vegan overnight. And that's when the anger kicked in because I thought I was making these compassionate choices with the way that I was living. And actually, I found out that I'd been lied to, that we'd all been lied to, that these individuals were still dying. And, I was filled with a lot of anger for those 23 years that I had still been consuming these products. That
Yeah.
anger built when I had conversations with people that I loved, compassionate, loving people, and I shared the truth that I had learnt, that I was grateful to finally learn, and they didn't change their actions in the same way that I had. Who'd have thought? We all come from different, backgrounds, different beliefs, different priorities, different goals. So again, Mitzi, that anger built. I became pretty consumed by the anger. And, I slowly realized that it's not an easy or effective or fun way to live, always being angry and sad and frustrated,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
It's actually not an effective approach in selling or, I guess, presenting the lifestyle that you're looking to lead. And again, whether that's in relation to politics, religion,
Anything,
any sort of
yeah. You
discrimination,
can
right? I
like
mean, there's
fill in the blank, yeah.
100%. This relates to whatever is really super important to you,
Yeah.
whatever decision that you've made that aligns with your values and beliefs. If someone you love doesn't feel the same way and you present them with the anger and frustration that you're feeling and nothing else, it's not going to lead anywhere positive.
It's not. It's not. I'm so glad you brought that up. Oh my goodness. I'm so glad you did because people don't think about this. People don't think about how we can hold anger for being misunderstood, for being discriminated against, for being judged inappropriately, you know what I mean? Or just knowing the truth or knowing your truth and not seeing why can't you see what I'm doing or see the same thing I'm seeing and just motivate you to change as well. Like that happens all the time. And me being a parent, oh my goodness, I can see myself sometimes getting angry when my children are just like moving the opposite direction when I'm just trying to put your clothes on. Like, just put your arm through this hole. You got one hole to put your hand in. Where are you going? Like, so I understand like these little things that, we could laugh out now and we could talk about so openly now, you know, it's a real thing that can build up with time if we don't express it and we don't actually communicate or acknowledge this is where our anger is coming from. So I guess back to what you're saying, and I'm sorry for interrupting you, but please go back to how we can implement this love then. How did you learn to implement it? Now I'm curious to know. Continue.
Yeah, absolutely. I learned the hard way, and I want to share this so hopefully our listeners don't have to learn quite
Yeah.
such the hard way. However, backtracking probably about a couple of years into my vegan journey, I was now an animal rights activist. I was spending a lot of time with other vegans and animal rights activists, and that actually made it even harder for me to spend
Oh,
time with my non-vegan loved ones. I was
mhm.
very much entrenched in this activist world. And my dear mum rang me up before Christmas one year, again, maybe about 6 years ago now, and she said, Katie, I don't know what to do about Christmas time because you're vegan, you're this animal rights activist, your father's the anti-vegan, Christmas is all about food for us. I don't know what to do unless you want to mastermind a vegan feast and sell the family on it. And I was like, amazing. Definitely masterminding the vegan feast. Rather if you sell the family on it. Anyway, the feast went amazing. We had a beautiful Christmas. I cooked all this fantastic food. And the day before I flew home to Sydney, mum and dad lived in a separate state to me. The day before I flew home, mum said to me, Katie, will you watch What the Health with me? Now, What the Health is a documentary that I'd been emotionally blackmailing my parents to try and get them to watch ever since I became vegan because I thought that was the angle I'd get them on health, and they wouldn't watch it until mum became open to watching it after I'd gone to all that effort for the vegan Christmas. I sat down, I watched the documentary. Mum was super compelled by it after being a nurse for 30 years. She resonated with the fact that we've got a broken sick care system, not a preventative health care system. She said, I'm going to try this plant-based thing for 2 weeks. Let's fast forward again another several years of mum not just being plant-based for 2 weeks, of mum becoming pretty much full vegan, even pretty animal rightsy, watching all the documentaries, our
Oh,
relation. It was amazing. So proud of her. So much respect. We grew even closer with that. And then here's the heavy bit, the super hard learning. Almost 3 years ago now, I got the phone call from my father that I always thought I'd be getting from my mother. I always thought I'd get the phone call from mum. Katie, it's your dad. Because dad wasn't healthy and dad didn't have a healthy mindset. And mum
yeah.
was the warmest, most generous, most giving, open-hearted, generous person I've ever known. Anyway, my dear mum had died. And that was the phone call that dad was relaying to me. And that was obviously the hardest thing times a billion in my life ever, completely out of the blue.
Oh, yeah.
And two things, all the anger and frustration and sadness that I had been carrying towards all the non-vegans in the world in my life, I didn't have any room for that anymore because all my sadness was taken up by the loss of my dear mum. And the second thing, I thought, with mum dying, with our relationship, I have zero regrets. She knew how much I loved and respected her and vice versa. If it had been dad, I would have had regrets because he was the anti-vegan and it was causing huge conflict in our relationship. And so at that point in time, gradually, Mitzi, I began to, I guess, first have an awareness of what it
Mhm.
was costing me, having all
Yeah.
this anger. I kind of
Yeah.
fast tracked, if I stay like this for 6 months, for 12 months, for 2 years, what is it going to cost me so far as my relationships, so far as my day to day joy? And,
Yeah.
and that is the first step. If we're getting actionable, for anyone listening, I hope you don't have to go through anything like what I went through. But the first step is whatever you are angry about, whatever you have hate about, bring to mind an awareness of what it's costing you right now in your life and in your relationships, and whether that's going to change if you keep
Yeah.
feeling that way. That is the first step.
Okay. The
The
first step.
second step, I brainstormed. So awareness is A. B is brainstorm the things that you can start doing and the things that you can stop doing to improve the situation. So, I stopped sharing some of those horrific videos that I used to share online. The videos that make the vegans and the non-vegans full of hate,
Cringe.
right?
Yeah.
They're just like, they need to be out there. I'm grateful for the activists that took them. For my own self-preservation, I stopped sharing them. I stopped having those conversations, and we all know what they are before we walk into them. Whatever we're passionate about, often there are conversations where someone's just up for a debate. They don't really care. They don't even really they're not having that genuine conversation. They're just in
Yeah.
for it for the fun and the debate
Yeah.
and the challenge.
Mm.
And it means too much for you, so I don't go there anymore. I started sharing my delicious plant based food. I started sharing the happy, good news stories, the animal sanctuaries. I started following happy, positive people who led with love, not hate. And and I started focusing on what I have in common with the people that I love, because we can all do that. Even if you have some big, huge values and beliefs and priorities that are not on the same page as your loved ones, you do still have lots in common as well. Probably even more things in common. If you hunt for them, you do still have those things.
That's a very good point. I really like those ways to try to focus on loving again. And I think it comes down to just the power of choice. You know what I mean? Remembering we have the choice. And when you're talking about how you stopped, oh my goodness, that's a powerful statement already. You stopped. You chose to stop and you flipped the switch and you said, you know what? I need more love. And so do more people. So this is what I'm going to do. Show the love, show animal sanctuary, show the progress in health, show the progress in life so that people can focus on the good. Because the good sometimes will just remind people, you know what? I can do it. Or they finally get ready. They finally get to that stage where, okay, I'm gonna start looking into it, do their own research, do their own understanding because everyone learns different, everyone perceives differently, and we live such a subjective life. You know what I mean? Like we could live and experience the same thing in time, but subjectively, it will both come out differently. So, those are very, very valid points of just starting to love and starting to process it. Because especially when you talked about most common things, you do not realize how many more things we have in common with each other as long as you start looking for them. Because we are so quick to differentiate people and segregate and discriminate in so many ways that we forget to realize one, we are human, and two, if you go down the list, you can find so many things in common with somebody else, even across the world. And it's like, just give yourself that chance, that opportunity, and that is a great thing. So it sounds like, does gratitude have another big part in this, in your opinion?
Gratitude is everything. It's like a force maximizer. Gratitude just makes everything better, and absolutely,
There you
yes,
go.
you are so right. I focus on it big time. I've also, I see my approach, the way that I now look to lead with love, compassion, and deliciousness. I see that as a way to honor my dear mum, right? I lost
Oh,
her I'm
Yeah.
grateful to have had her to help her energy, her amazing, warm, bright energy live on. How about I make it my mission to be even more like her? So yeah, absolutely. Gratitude is a huge part of it. And in the same way that we can choose to focus on what we have in common with the people closest to us, we can choose to find gratitude for the tiniest things. We've all got
Yeah.
big things to be grateful for as well, but it's even more fun when you just focus on every tiny little thing that is there that you can be grateful for. And strangely, what you focus on expands, right? So the more you focus on it, the more you experience it.
Mm, there you go. I like that. I like that. So why do you think people stay in their hate? Why do you think people just choose to just sit in it?
Well, speaking to myself, hate can stimulate action. It is a really powerful emotion, and
Yeah.
it did force me to take action and act in a way that I thought was making change in the world. Possibly it wasn't. Again, I was stuck in my own lens of, hey, if I'd met an animal rights activist at 16 years old, their angry approach would have worked on me. I would have been vegan overnight and I would have been grateful for that. That was like a lack of awareness of how everyone else is in the world, though. I'm probably not the norm. If I want to have a greater impact, I need to approach people where they are at. I need to not just be stuck in my own mindset and what maybe
Yeah.
feels right and easy to me in the moment. Reacting to your strong hateful emotions, that's actually easy in the moment. It's hard in the long term because of the consequences it brings about. However, it's easy in the moment. It doesn't take much discipline. Calming yourself and having the clarity of thought for what you want to achieve long term, that's harder in the moment. However, it is so much easier long term. And so that's what I remind myself. What is effective long term rather than what does my angry little heart want to do right now?
I love that last part. What does my angry little heart want to do right now? I know you got to tame the heart. Like, stand down. We're
Yeah,
doing the right thing. Move on over. Let's keep going.
100%.
Oh, I love that. So I love quotes. If you see my socials, I'd be posting quotes almost every day. So I have a quote here that I would love to know your opinion on. The quote goes, "You never lose love by loving. You always lose by holding back."
Yeah, I haven't heard it before, and it is beautiful. And what it makes me think of is people match your energy and emotion. And in the same way that I'll use my father as an example, because we've made huge progress since mum died. There's still a long way to go. However, we've made huge progress. Even if I am holding back the judgy, hateful things I want to say with sheer discipline, he can feel that judgy energy coming out of me, and he matches it by being defensive and not supportive and that anti-vegan that I've judged him as. Conversely, the better I get at leading with love and being open and demonstrative with it, it's amazing how that is matched. And I don't even know, I'm sure it's not conscious on his part, but if I, become super conscious about just being much more generous with the love, if I lead the way, and it's not easy all of the time, but I'm getting better at it. It's amazing how our energy is matched. What we put out there gets reflected back at us. And wow, I want more love reflected back, not more hate.
Yes, I love that. And it's true, you really can pick up energies before and you like kind of like brace yourself, like, oh, what am I gonna get into? Oh, let me defend myself. So yes, when you said it, that's the perfect way. So it's just like you gotta remember our words, our tone has such a big impact on what somebody else is gonna receive our words and our tone as. And that's why I strongly believe in the saying that you can say anything as long as you choose the words and your tone wisely, because it has a really big impact. So, thank you for this. I'm curious, what is your biggest pet peeve in life then?
Oh, I spend my life trying not to focus on the pet peeves. What is the biggest pet peeve? I would say ignorance with volition. So let me explain that. When someone, and again, this could relate to anything. However,
Yeah,
when someone tells me animals are here for us, not with us. They were created for us to eat, and that's what I'm going to do. That is actually better for me to hear. I feel like it's honest. They're sharing their truth. That's how they feel. I disagree hard. However, that's how that individual feels, and I respect it to a degree. When someone goes, nothing bad happening here, all the animals that I eat lived a happy life and died pain free, and it's all beautiful. And yeah, I'm not going to watch that documentary, but I just know this to be true because it's a convenient truth for me to believe. That's probably my biggest pet peeve because I feel like they're intentionally staying ignorant and they're trying to
yeah,
sell me on that lie. And I just find
yeah.
that frustrating. I'd prefer you to just be really upfront with me and say, I don't care about animals. I'm going to eat them. I'm like,
Okay.
all right.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, I can see that, and that makes sense because there's a lot of people you could literally use that scenario for absolutely
A
everything, and
hundred
you know
percent.
what I mean. So that's absolutely true. The ignorance is sometimes there's a hard fine line because it's like, okay, how ignorant do you really want to claim this? Because you're not allowing yourself to grow. You're not even allowing yourself to just be honest the reason why you are doing something. You're just doing it just to react. You're just doing it just 'cause. And it's just like, where's your intentions? Like, I need people with who have intentions, who have integrity, who have that understanding, who have just that accountability for your actions and your words, you know? So I can most definitely see that. So if you could have a superpower, what would your superpower be?
Oh, I've never thought of this one either. Um, the one that comes to mind is I'd love to be able to fly, but let's not go there. That's a cliche. I would love to be able to respond most effectively in any given interaction. I trust that my intention is genuine. And so if I had a superpower where I could just read what would be most effective for an open hearted, loving conversation, and I had the skill to be able to respond with clarity and love in that moment, in that conversation, I think that would be pretty amazing and pretty impactful for good.
Yeah, it's funny that you say that because I think somebody else kind of said that too before, but it was more of a
Really?
clarity. Yeah, where he basically said he wanted to have good clarity and communication skills so that he can clearly clarify what's in his mind and articulate accordingly to a person and communicate that and to allow it to be effective and motivation and a drive for people to go forward, you know, in their life. So I think that's interesting that you're the second person from the same day
Amazing.
that yeah that said that. So it must be a sign. Clarity and communication, ladies and gentlemen, it's achievable because that would be an achievable superpower because if you practice on it and you work on it, then you can achieve it and then watch down the line, you're like, oh, superpower, check. I'm done. That's funny. Oh, well, this has been such a great conversation, Kate. You have really brought some great points for us to really think about when it comes to love and demonstrating love and putting out love and just being love within yourself as well and just having that compassion within yourself because you know it all starts within you as well. So, what could be some lasting words of wisdom that you can leave us off with to keep on thinking?
Oh, I just want to say I am grateful for this opportunity, Mitzi, and the fact that you are open to having these difficult conversations and letting me bring up veganism, which can be quite polarizing. And it is my intention to make it less polarizing and more about the love and compassion it should be based on. My final words, I would say my go-to is always to back yourself 100% so far as your intention is genuine. You know, we've all learned over the past few years that life is uncertain. You can't often rely on other people. You certainly can't rely on circumstances. You don't know what's coming tomorrow, let alone next year. You
Mm-hmm.
can build a certainty of self so that you can become a person that you can rely on, that you can come through for you. And that is what I explain by backing yourself 100%. So that is my final advice for our listeners. Back yourself 100%.
There you go. I like that. I like that a lot. And I know I'm perfectly fine speaking about vegan, vegetarian and all that stuff because my mom, her health is right now is kind of declining where she has to change her diet and she's actually going into the vegan route because meat just she cannot tolerate it for not one bit. And she's learning and she's adjusting and I just been trying to support her and just help her not feel like she should be shunned because sometimes it feels like that, you know, like you're shunned because what you can only eat salad at a party. Like, no. So I always try to find creative ways to include her to make her feel included in parties and get-togethers because at the end of the day, just because your diet may be different than mine at the moment doesn't mean that it's not something that I can't learn from because I don't know if I may come across a certain stage in my life where I can't eat meat anymore. I need to figure out a new way to live. You know, so it's just or just to start implementing something new in your diet is something good. You know what I mean? Vegetables are good for our soul. There's so been so many studies. We can literally go out and have a whole new podcast episode just on vegetarian. To be honest, we're gonna probably have an excuse to bring you back just to talk about this more topic in hand because it is so amazing to really think about it when you really start diving into it. So let's not get deep into it. Ladies and gentlemen, if you guys want to know more about Kate and all that she has to offer the world so that you can keep on thinking, check her out. I have her beautiful photo on my website along with her website. Just click right there and you can have all the access so that you can continue on thinking. So with that being said, be safe, y'all. Bye.